The first thing that strikes me about Tom is a seriousness of purpose which is kind of mingled with a merriness of personality. You know he's intent upon doing things and doing things right, and you know you can trust him, and you know what his character is just by being around him a little while.
Tom is easy to get along with. He is an easygoing, very focused individual that cares deeply about the university, and he's delightful to work with because Tom is by nature optimistic. He has an optimistic spirit about the value of the University of North Carolina.
And so he has a humility about him that if you didn't know him, might betray you to think that, well, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to go to ask somebody else, you know. But it was very intentional.
Thomas Warren Ross developed his unique personality at an early age in his hometown of Greensboro.
My mother was a really kind and wonderful person, and I think she probably taught me as much as anything about trying to be gracious under fire and never say anything bad. Her mother, my grandmother, who lived with me when I was a child, used to say, if you don't have anything good to say about somebody, don't say anything at all. And I've remembered that phrase my whole life from my grandmother, and my mother was the same way. My father was an accomplished person educationally. I mean, he was a very smart person, and he instilled in me the importance of an education. And you know, there were times he pushed me, and I needed to be pushed. But I had a deep affection for him. I miss both my parents.
That push led Ross to follow in his father's footsteps and attend Davidson College, graduating in 1972. In 2007, Ross became president of his alma mater. Davidson College President Emeritus Dr. John Kirkendall, a colleague and close friend of Ross, describes his presidency.
He did things as president that I would never have tried, such as when we were having that wonderful run in the NCAA tournament when Steph Curry was here. They had a basketball set up in the college union, and Tom walked through there. They handed him a basketball. He was standing out just about at Steph Curry range. They said, "Take a shot, President, take a shot." He shot it, nothing but net. Just everything was perfect, and I just knew if I'd had to do that, I would have shot 10 times, not made it. I wasn't a bad basketball player back in the day, but you know, it was just so graceful and natural, and it was so endearing about him at the same time.
Tom Ross also showed his expertise on the judicial court as well. After receiving his law degree from the University of North Carolina School of Law in 1975, Ross served as an attorney, a state superior court judge for 17 years, and director of the North Carolina Administrative Office of the Courts. He is also the recipient of the William Rehnquist Award for Judicial Excellence. Through the years, he has developed a lasting friendship with another member of North Carolina's judiciary, former Chief Justice Henry Fry.
I felt that I could talk to him about anything, and that would be the end of it if we wanted to keep it confidential. And I think he felt the same way about me, and hopefully still does. On, I guess, about every major decision that I had to make, I would talk to Tom Ross about it, and sometimes I would follow his advice, sometimes I wouldn't. But I wanted to know what he felt, you know, how he felt about it.
Chief Justice Fry was also involved in another transition of Ross's career as UNC president, serving from 2011 to 2016.
Congratulations.
Under his leadership, we hired probably the most talented group of chancellors we've ever had. We expanded our online education commitment, and for the first time really put it front and center and began to focus on military students and on non-traditional students. And we strengthened our articulation agreement with the community colleges so that we're now taking more transfer students than we've ever taken because we made it easier.
In the short time I've served as UNC president, I've gained a whole new level of respect and admiration for the amazing leadership that my predecessors brought to this job. They built and nurtured and sustained a phenomenal institution and I owe each of them an enormous debt of gratitude. I was privileged to follow Tom Ross as president of this great university, and have to say he could not have been more gracious or supportive during my transition to this new role.
Now Tom Ross is taking on a dual role in the arena of public policy. He is the first Terry Sanford Distinguished Fellow of Public Policy at Duke University, where he is developing a nonpartisan approach to redistricting in North Carolina. Ross will also spend his time between Charlotte and New York City as president of the Volcker Alliance. Founded by former Federal Reserve Chairman Paul Volcker, the organization focuses on creating effective execution of public policy and rebuilding trust in government. The 2016 UNC Board of Governors University Award recipient credits the support of his family as the backbone of his success. Ross also sees the honor as a catalyst to continue a career of service.
I want to do more. I don't know where it will be best expended, but I do think it will be in trying to make government better, trying to make society work more effectively and efficiently, and so that we can have the kind of state and the kind of nation that we all really want. And there's a lot of work to be done.